Shalom, everyone, and today we study this part B of our special discussion about Passover. In the previous part, part A, we discussed the background of the Seder of Passover, what really is the meaning of the Exodus on the spiritual, metaphysical plane. How is that connected to the transformational uh, e- uh, events that we are watching right now in the whole world? And basically, the idea that humanity is going through a process of evolution. Uh, we evolve, and the Exodus was part of it. And whatever we see along history, every event in history is weaved into a great, great network of events that basically have one goal: to lead towards redemption. Redemption of all of humanity. Redemption, which means, when are we going to see that people will make their weapons into plows? When, all the prophecies of Isaiah and Jeremiah and Ezekiel and the other prophets, it needs one very important thing. Only when people achieve a power of spirituality that is strong enough to overcome the desire to kill, to destroy what belongs to somebody else, to take what belongs to somebody else, to hate, to abuse other people's um, rights for happiness. Only when that happens, only then we can see real peace. So the question is, how is that going to be? Is human nature going to change? We thought that human nature is changing. The world became better. And then we realized we lived in a hoax. And then instead of being ruled 100 years ago by empires, like it was the German Empire, the Russian Empire, the Habsburg Empire, the Ottoman Empire, the French Empire, the British Empire, which, we are being ruled by people that took over your rights, your lands, and whatever you had. And then we thought World War One, World War Two, that it's getting better. And then we realize that they don't call it empire, but we are being colonized by all kinds of power and money behind the scenes that is buying governments and parliament members and whoever know and basically you're not really free. And the idea that you're not really free is that you are being manipulated. And the question is, how can we achieve true freedom? Do I have to wait for Messiah to come? An answer, the Kabbalistic answer, is yes. I'm waiting for Messiah to come. I'm anticipating it. But it doesn't mean that I'm exempt of trying to achieve my own individual freedom and be part of the process. And Passover is part of that process, the individual idea that I can tap into prophetic divine powers that are available for me so I can lift myself above the dungeon of selfishness, pity, and negativity. They said so and they said so. Panic. The social media is geared. The algorithms of the social media is geared, it's planned to generate, to create panic, because the more panic people are, the more they go and they consume all kinds of content on the media. So we are feeding those monsters that we don't even know who is making it, but these are the forces, the great forces that basically run the show. They think they run the show, but really the one who runs the show is the Almighty, and because everything is serving that purpose. We're going through that kind of awareness that we are enslaved to the banking system, to the great multinational companies, to the big money. We are being enslaved to it, but this is part of awakening when you're starting to realize that you are being manipulated to consume, to live a certain kind of life in order to serve the ones who really live off you. So, how do I get the power to basically have a liftoff, an elevation to the level that is the level of true freedom, the level of true enlightenment, which they go together? Freedom, enlightenment, redemption. They are all different names for the same experience, that you broaden your mind and you start to think big. And then you realize who is manipulating you and what are your real needs and interests. So let's begin. Actions that we have to take in order to connect to that gift of the power of redemption that appears on the night of Passover. So let us begin. Amar Rabbi Elazar, we are talking about the night of the firstborn. Although it happened some 33 centuries ago, the plague of the firstborn, as the Kabbalists explain, every year when the same time, full moon of Aries, the same power reawakens and we can draw it down, capture it, and that's why the holidays are being called in the five books of Moses Mikra'ei Kodesh, calling the holiness in. We are basically creating the actions below that awaken the powers from above, and we draw them down into our reality. So let's read from the Zohar, Parashat Shmot, verse 320. Amar Rabbi Elazar said, Eloah shel Mitzrayim se haya. The God, the main God of Egypt, was a ram. The ram god. His name was Ra. Ra in Hebrew means evil. וציווה הקדוש ברוך הוא לעשות בו שפטים. And God ordered us to abuse it. לשרוף אותו באש. To slaughter it, to burn it on fire, to roast it on open fire. כמה דאמר, as it says, פסילי אלוהיהם תשרפון באש. The Torah says very clearly, the idols of their gods you should burn in fire. So the Israelites took the lamb that is the god of Egypt and burned him on open fire with a consciousness of destroying the gods of Egypt. כדי שירחו נודף, and not just this, to roast him on open fire so the smell will go all over. Can you imagine? 600,000 Israelites, but that's only the men. So you have 600,000 females, so that's 1 million point 2, and then children and elders, and think that each 50 had a lamb, and they all slaughtered the lamb at twilight and roasted it on fire. Can you imagine the smell all over Egypt? Everybody could smell it. Ve'od, and more than that. Rosho al krav al kirbo. So the Egyptians came to see what the Israelites are doing. And the Torah says when you roast it on open fire, do not cut it into pieces. You know, when you barbecue, you cut the meat into pieces, you let it sit in the different kinds of marinaras and stuff. No, take it and put it as it is on open fire so everybody can see. There's no doubt it's not turkey, it's not chicken, it is a lamb. And then after they finished, they threw the bones out in the marketplace with despise. וזאת שעצמותם מושלכים בשוק, וזאת הייתה למצרים קשה מכולם. And that was the hardest for the Egyptians. הדר דכתיב שפטים. You really had to treat the gods of Egypt with total disdain and abuse. As above, so below, which means you do it from below and you cut their magical forces from above. How? Amar Rabbi Yehuda, so Rabbi Yehuda added, Be'elohehem mamash, you have to really fight their God. Did they have a God? Yes. It's not a God, it's their angel. Every nation has its own angel that is basically the conduit of the energy the souls of that nation is receiving. And that is the verse that God will order the army of the heavens and over the kings over earth, which means every nation, the government, the king of that nation is ruled by the supervising angel of that nation. The king does not really make a decision. The president or the prime minister, the government, they're all being ruled by the angels of that nation. Sometimes you say, like, how come they make such a foolish decision? They're not really in control. And the wizards of Egypt, they knew that. המצווה שלאחר זו. And then the next mitzvah, after that, after destroying, fighting the God of Egypt, the next mitzvah הוא לספר בשבח יציאת מצרים. That is to tell, to speak about the glory of the Exodus. שהוא חוב על האדם לעולם לספר בשבחים האלה. This is a very important duty to praise those miracles of the Exodus, the night of the plague of the firstborn, and all the miracles that happen in the Exodus. We already explained. כל אדם המספר ביציאת מצרים, every person that tells the story of the Exodus, and now you have to understand the Zohar is playing over here a game. The word is mesaper. Mesaper in Hebrew means giving, telling the story. But if you know a little bit of Hebrew, the shoresh, every Hebrew word is usually having a shoresh, a root of 3 letters. The root over here is samech peiresh. It's the same root of the word sephira, illumination. Okay? So when we tell the story of the Exodus, we illuminate, we bring in the illumination of the original Exodus. V'samech b'sipur b'simcha. And whoever is telling the story, shining the light of that story, and rejoices with that illumination and story, he is going finally, in the future to come, to rejoice with the Shekhinah in the world to come. Which shehi simcha mikol tzad. It's happiness from all directions. And that's ze adam hasamech banuno. You're not just rejoicing with the story, you're rejoicing with the Shekhinah, with the divine, with the Holy Spirit, and you rejoice with your master, the creator of the universe. And then, והקדוש ברוך הוא שמח בסיפור שלו. So when you really tell the story, not just as a tradition, you tell the story for the illumination of that light. What is the purpose of the creation? God wanted to share his light with us. What is the instant he shared the biggest amount of light ever? During the Exodus. So when we enjoy that light, every year again on Passover, we fulfill the purpose of the creation. which means like the heavens are open, the gates of heaven are open at that night, so we can call that light like it was revealed. It's like the same, uh, the same thing is played again. All the light that was revealed in Egypt at the night of the Exodus is being played all over again. Our job is just to call it in. And we call it in, we fulfill the purpose of our creation. ואם תאמר, למה הוא חייב לספר את הניסים? If you ask, why does a person has to tell the stories of the miracles? And again, word לספר is to tell the story, but it's to uh, illuminate the stories, the miracles. והלא הקדוש ברוך הוא יודע הכל, but God knows everything. He knows what was, כל מה שהיה, ויהיה לאחר מכן, will be later on. ולמה הפרסום הזה לפניו? Why do we have to publish that and to tell to the whole family, repeat the story? God knows the story. He knows what he did. על כל מה שהוא עשה והוא ידע, whatever he did and he knew. הוא משיב, and the answer is, אלא ודאי צריך האדם לפרסם הנס. Of course, every person has to make that miracle published. ולספר לפניו מכל אשר עשה. And to tell the story, whatever God did, all the miracles he did. Not for God, for us. Because when we say the words of the Haggadah, the praises of the Exodus, those words go up, they awaken lights above. וכל הפמיילה של מעלה, and the whole army of the hosts above, the hosts of angels above, מתקבצים ורואים אותם, it awakens the angels above. And מודים לפני הקדוש ברוך הוא, and all of them, they praise God. ועולה כבודו עליהם למעלה ולמטה. By praising the Exodus, the miracles of God, we awaken those lights all over again, above and below. מה נשתנה הלילה הזה מכל עולות? What, one of the most famous parts of the Haggadah, which in most families, this is where the children gets up on the chairs and they sing it, and the grown-ups repeat after them. מה נשתנה? מה נשתנה הלילה הזה מכל הלילות? What is this night different than all other nights? שבכל הלילות איננו אומרים הלל בלילה אפילו פעם אחת. All nights, we never say Hallel at night even once. Hallel is a special prayer, the most powerful prayer of praise it. Hallel, the word hallelujah comes from Hallel, praising God. We never say Hallel, not even once. Not on the night of Rosh Hashanah, not on the night of Yom Kippur, not on the nights of Sukkot. Never. לפי שבתפילה לא מגיעים אף פעם למדרגה של הלל בלילה. We never reach the level of Hallel at night. ואילו הלילה הזה, שתי פעמים. Tonight, twice. The night of the Seder we say Hallel twice. גם בבית הכנסת בתפילה, we say Hallel in the synagogue during the evening prayer, וגם בבית על הכוס, and also at home, over the wine cup, twice, during the Seder. כזו מדרגה גבוהה יש בלילה הזה, זה לא לילה פשוט. It's a very high level. There's no night like this, ever, and that's why we sing. מה נשתנה הלילה הזה? What is this night different than the other nights? וזה רומז למה שאמרו חז"ל במדרש, שבאותו לילה, שיצאו אבותינו ממצרים, הקדוש ברוך הוא האיר עליהם את הלילה כמו אמצע היום בתמוז. So our sages said in the Midrash, and that night, at that night when of the Exodus, God shined the night like it was the midday in midsummer. And simply, okay, it was so much light. However, when we study the Arizal with the Rashash, Rabbi Shalom Sharabi, יש לזה משמעות בעצם מאוד. There's a special meaning with those lights. That light that appeared at that night and appears every year in the night of the Seder is nothing like any light that we know, like other nights. This is the light of daylight. That light appears only on daylight. Only one night a year, that light appears during the night, on the night of Passover. כתוב בזוהר הקדוש, it says in the Holy Zohar, שבלילה הזה יש זיווגה עילה עד יללה. That on that night, there is such a unity among the emanations, the Sefirot, above, that is not from our part. It doesn't depend on us. Why? It had been awakened from above as a gift on the night of the Exodus. Okay? It disappeared the next day because it came from the Creator. It was a gift. It disappeared so we can work for it and regain it on Mount Sinai on Shavuot. But it came from above, and every year it reawakens like in the first Passover in Egypt. כלומר, שלא לפי מדרגתם של ישראל, the light that appeared on that night was not according to our level. We were slaves. We were slaves in the lowest level, the lowest state of mind. You know where slaves are. You're a victim, you're negative, you're pessimistic, you're only in a survival mode. However, Rabbi Zakluria explained in Shara Kavanah, the gate of meditation, about Passover. והנה בדרך כלל סדר המשכת המוחין הוא always when a person reaches completion of his soul or her soul, there are 4 stages. The first one is called mochin dekatnut. Mochin dekatnut is the brains of smallness. You know, you're a little kid and you can't see the big picture. And everything is like, and you know, little kids are like basically manic depressive. The manic when they get a little piece of chocolate or a toy, and then the next hour they're depressed and they cry like the whole world fell apart. Okay, this is a little kid. It's like you complain, you cry, the end of the world, and you're happy and you get excited. It's you're very small-minded. That's mochin dekatnut. That's first stage. The second stage is called gadlut rishon. It's the first level of greatness. Okay, like a child that is becoming a young adult, bar mitzvah. Then the third level, katnut shani, the second level of small-mindedness. And then level 4 is the second level of greatness. And every human being must go through these 4 stages to rise to real completion and power, and really rise to what is called our real true calling. What is our real true calling? We were created to be divine creatures. We came into a physical body with fears and phobias and victimhood and all kinds, and then being needy for money, for sustenance, for food, for housing, all of that stuff, just to become enslaved to the physical world, so we can earn our godliness by overcoming our evil inclination that belongs to the body, which means You want the ticket. You want to win the ticket for godliness. You have to overpower the small-mindedness of the physical needs. So that's part of the plan. It's not a mistake. That's part of the plan. It's part of the great plan of God. But we need to go through these 4 stages. And we have to earn each stage by hard spiritual work, by awareness, by study, by meditation, by prayer, by changing our values, by upgrading our state of mind constantly. And it takes usually many lifetimes for a human soul to overcome again and again and again till we reach that level of real godliness and purity and spirituality. However, אולם, בפסח, הקדוש ברוך הוא העיר וגאלה מיד, בגדלות ראשון ושני בבת אחת, on the night of Passover, on the night of the Exodus, the Creator illuminated the lights of greatness, the first stage and the second stage at once. כי אם הקדוש ברוך הוא היה גואל אותם בהדרגה, many Kabbalists explain, if that will be by stages, by logic, קודם מוחין דקטנות, אחר כך גדלות ראשון, first stage, second stage, third and fourth stage, there will not be a redemption because the power of darkness of the Egyptians was so great, was so big. The Egyptians will take over those powers and use them up to subjugate the Israelites even more. And then the Israelites will fall into the 50th gate of impurity. אז היו נטמעים בשער הנון. וילכך, כדי לבטל את אחיזת השאור והחמץ, in order to cancel the darkness of negativity that is represented by the sourdough and the leaven, we spoke about it in part A of this lecture. In order the sourdough, what makes the dough to rise, and the leaven, which is a physical symbol of the darkness, which means you're connected to it, you get sour about everything, and you miss, in Hebrew, it's a game of words, and you miss your goal in life. So those people, they can't miss an opportunity to miss an opportunity by always finding what to complain about. Meanwhile, they miss the opportunity to achieve greatness in this world. This is what pulls us down. We all have that. On the night of Passover, the Creator, the Creator infused the Israelites with the 2 levels of greatness, first and second, בבת אחת, at once. דהיינו, גם דילג על ההדרגה של המוחין דקטנות וישר נתן להם גדלות. It's like he skipped, passed over what is called, it was not according to the book. It was not by schedule. It was out of order. And he gave all the Israelites the greatness of prophetic wide awareness. That is the power of true redemption. That light of redemption that was revealed at that night was the only thing that would turn a bunch of slaves into free human beings who say, we're not going to be slaves anymore. We leave everything behind us. The food that was in Egypt. I just read a while ago, somebody did a research about the Sinai Peninsula, and they found cycles like Bedouin tribes populate the Sinai Peninsula, and then they disappear. And then new Bedouin tribes are coming from Arabia, and they populate the Sinai Peninsula, and then disappear again. And then they were trying to find genetically what happened. And they found the same thing we read in the book of Genesis. Once in few decades, there's famine, there's no rain, drought, and there's famine that is so strong that all of those Bedouin tribes in the Sinai and the Negev and in what today is Israel, they go to Egypt. They go to Egypt because the Nile is giving water. Okay? It's from the rains in Central Africa. And after they go down to Egypt, they simply assimilate with the Egyptians. They don't want to go back to the desert and they stay there. And they simply stay there. And you can find it. It's a research that was published like a few weeks ago. And here, why would the Israelites leave and go back to the desert? You got used to it. There's water 365 days a year. There's always water. There's always fertile land. Why would you go back to the desert after you got used to it? Only when you have a prophetic awareness coming from above, saying we go to the desert not because we're looking for more food, because we prefer to be free. We want to be redeemed. We want to have the emanation of the light of God. And that's more powerful than money, than water and food. And that awareness is what enabled a whole nation to get up and leave. And that same light is being awakened every year. Does that mean that after the Passover we have to go to the desert? No. But all of us, we have the desert. Innovation, daring. Many times we have to leave a bondage into a certain job, a certain way of thinking, habits, addictions. Egypt. Egypt in Hebrew is basically addictions. Meitzarim, the narrow place where you get stuck, the bottleneck. Okay? And you need to break that bottleneck and go to freedom, but you need for that, not that somebody will tell you, you should quit the job and take another job in something else. Most of us are too afraid. But if you have the awareness of redemption, you dare, you try. You're not afraid to fall. You're not afraid to stay without a paycheck. That's the whole secret of innovation, startup nation. Maybe because we celebrate Passover every year, we have that guts, that need, that drive that says, move on, push forward. Let's try something we never tried. If we cannot experience freedom of reinventing ourselves, it doesn't worth living. That light appears every year at the night of Passover. So the lights of redemption, they're coming every year at the night of the Seder. And they come in two stages. First, during the evening prayer, and this is the internal lights. And how do we know? Because we just pray. Just a prayer is always internal. Then we come back home for the Seder. That's a meal. We have a physical thing. We start with Kadesh, blessing over the first cup of wine. It's a physical wine. Okay, all the stages after that, with the matzah, with the maror, the bitter herbs, all of that, that's already physical actions. So that's the light of externity, external lights. So we have the internal coming during the evening prayer. And of course, we sing the Hallel, the praises of Hallel at that night. It's the only time that during the evening prayer, we say the Hallel. And then during the Seder itself, we read the Haggadah, and part of the Haggadah is the Hallel itself. So, ומה שאין עושים את חג השבועות מיד למחרת ליל הסדר, so why don't we do Shavuot? Why immediately after the night of the Seder, we did not celebrate Mount Sinai celebration? Why God cannot just, if he gave us the light of redemption on that night, he cannot give us the next night, the Torah, immediately the day after, so we can receive the Keter of the 10 Sefirot on the night of the Seder, we reach up to Chokhmah. If we're talking about 10 levels, 10 levels of Sefirot, emanations, we can reach to number 9 out of 10 on the night of the Seder. So why can't we the next night get number 10? So the Arizal is explaining, everything is because כל הנעשה בליל הסדר, the Arizal is saying, הכל נעשה מזיווגה דלילה, דלה מסתרה דילן. On the night of Passover, everything is happening from God. God is infusing those lights from his point of view. We just have to be on the receiving aspect. It doesn't matter if you're righteous, you're not righteous, you just celebrate the Seder and you get yourself happy. You drink the 4 cups, you eat the 4 portions of matzah, and you get that light. Of course, you have to want it. כלומר, האור נשפע מצד הקדוש ברוך הוא, the light is coming, the bliss is coming from God, not because of your actions, but because God is giving. Therefore, לכך האור מסתלק, therefore the light is taken away, being removed the next day because you didn't work for it, because in our world there's a rule, right? You want something, you have to work for it. No free lunches. So, ואם אתה רוצה לקבל את האור, if you want the light, you need to work for it, to draw that light on your own. So, the 7 weeks after Passover, this is where we really work on receiving all the lights that we got on the night of Passover. 7 weeks. What do we do with the counting of the Omer? How do you say it in Hebrew? Sefirat HaOmer. What's the word? We basically count the Omer, but in Hebrew, the same lesaper, sfira, sfirot, same word, which means the light that emanates and shines upon us on the night of Passover disappears. And now by the counting of the Omer, we bring down all of that light that we got on one night. We work for 49 days to receive that light. When we come to Shavuot, the holiday of Mount Sinai revelation, now we deserve it. We worked for it. Where are we going to get the incentive to work for 49 days? On the night of Passover. You get the taste. Now you taste the taste. You know how great it is. You know, it's like you got the taste and now you want it, work for it. And then when you get it, you get all 10 Sefirot, not 9. We get 9 on the night of the Seder. On the night of Shavuot, we get 10 lights, including the upper light of Keter. So, what is the Kavanah? How do we celebrate the Seder? First of all, we have to remember that we have the tree of life. And the tree of life, we have Keter Chochmah Binah, the upper 3. Then you have Chesed Gvura Tifer, that's the upper triangle. Netzach Hod Yesod, the lower triangle, and then Malchut. Okay. When we set the table to prepare it for the Seder, before we start the Haggadah, we prepare all the different parts. Okay? Here, this is, Ashkenazi way. You put first the three matzot inside this kind of three stories storage, and the three matzot connect to the upper three, Chokhmah, Bina, Dat. Why not Keter? We said Keter we get only on the night of Shavuot. So the three matzot connect to the upper three. And because the upper three are hidden, they're being put under the Seder plate. If you don't have such a fancy thing, you can take 3-4 cups, glass cups, and you put the matzot underneath, and then the Seder plate you put above it on the cups. Okay, you don't have to buy something so fancy. And then, so you need to have a Seder plate. So one way, which is right, is to put the Seder plate above the matzot. The Sephardi way, you put the three matzot just on the upper side of the Seder plate, which means you have the Seder plate in front of you, and that just you put the three matzot just leaning on the edge, on the top of the Seder plate. Okay, now, what is the Kavanah of the three matzot? Usually you can get also not such a fancy thing. For most people, you buy that kind of a Passover cover, matzot cover, and it has three compartments inside. If not, you can put three, how do you call it? Three nice pieces of cloth, whatever you find, or paper, or napkins, and you put the matzot in between them. But when you put the matzot, the best way is to put the matzot in front of the people that celebrate the Seder with you. And the first thing, you take the first matzah, and you say this matzah is Chokhmah, right column, Kohen. Okay? Or in Hebrew, Chokhmah, Yamin, Kohen. And you meditate on that matzah, and you see the whole thing revolves around the Hebrew letter Hey, which is the letter of the month of Aries, according to the Book of Formation. But you meditate on the letter Hey, as you see in the picture in front of you, that is made of the Hebrew letter Daled and the Hebrew letter Yud inside it. This is the meditation for the top matzah. You show everybody, you hold the matzah, because all matzot come from the box, and the same, usually almost the same shape and same size. What's the difference? It's from the same flour, there's the same dough. You make it different, it's voice activated. When you say and you meditate, you say Chokhmah, right column, Kohen, and you meditate Hey, that is made of Dalet and Yud. Now this matzah, one day we will be able to see, whoever read about the messages in the water of Masao Amuto, that he showed that when you talk to water, they change their structure. Why just water? Any food, especially bread, by the way. So here you talk to the matzah, and the matzah is being, in a nano level, being reshaped. The frequency of the electrons and the particles are changed just because you say that and you meditate as a Hey that is made of Dalet and Yud. Underneath the top matzah, you put the second matzah, you show it to everybody, that's Bina, small Levi. Bina, left column, Levi. Now you meditate on the Hebrew letter Hey, but the Hey that is made, like in the picture, from Daled and Vav. And then you put the second matzah under the first matzah. Now you take another matzah, a third matzah, and you say Da'at, central column, Israel. And you meditate on the letter Hey that is made of 3 Vav, the way you see it in the picture. 3 vav is 18, chai. And then, of course, now the 3 matzot become like a satellite dish. They are vehicles to draw the energy of Pesach for us coming through the matzah. Now we set the plate itself. So, either you buy in a Judaica store, you don't have to. Any plate big enough is good. You just put on the top right, there are many traditions. Whoever has a family tradition, follow that tradition. All of them are right. So either you take uh, the easiest is to take uh, uh, a wing of a chicken, okay? So chicken wing. If you really want a higher level, you take a real right arm of a lamb, a piece of that. Then you show it to everybody sitting and say Chesed Zoa. Okay, that's it. Zoa Chesed, that's the name. You put it over the plate on the top right. On the left, you take an egg, a hard-boiled egg, that before the holiday, you just burn it over the open fire till it just becoming a little bit roasted on the open fire. And you say Beitza Gvura. Beitza means an egg. Why the chesed? Chesed zoa, because that's היד החזקה, היד הגדולה, the great arm of God. But this is the sephira of chesed. This is what we're being told. You want to awaken the power of chesed, you use a zoa. So either it's an arm of a lamb, or you use a chicken wing. That's also good. Or in many households, that could be a neck. Could be a chicken neck, could be that is cooked and also roasted on fire, a chicken neck or turkey's neck, but chicken usually. The left is, so whatever your custom is. On the left is the egg. In the middle between the two, tiferet maror, you take the bitter herb. What's a bitter herb? So the bitter herb in this case, it's a bitter herb. So, okay, depends on the custom of your family and your tradition, but it should be something bitter. There are different, according to the Talmud, there are 5 different herbs that you can take that has some bitterness. It's like what's famous today. You have like, it's very, very easy to find, how do you call it? Like those bitterly tasted the greens for the salad. Okay? And the Ashkenazi tradition is to add horseradish, which is really bitter, because in North Europe, to find green leaves was not so easy in this part of the year. And the best is to do both. Many families do the tradition of both. Green bitters and horseradish. Most people know wasabi. Wasabi is made of horseradish. Okay, they just dye it with a very strong green color. I'm not talking about the wasabi in Japan. I'm talking the wasabi they sell everywhere outside Japan. I can buy that in a how do you call it? Like in the vegetable store. Okay, on the right bottom you have Haroset, which is Netzach, and you say Haroset Netzach. I will speak about and the Haroset. Also, there are many traditions. It should be something that reminds the mud they used for making the bricks. So in the simplest is also the many traditions. The simplest could be a little bit wine with ground nuts and raisins. There are many different traditions. The Arizal tradition is 10 different ingredients. We'll talk about it later. Karpas is parsley, according to Rabbi Zakloria. Some families are using celery leaves, and then you say hod karpas, and in the bottom middle, it's yesod chazeret. Okay, here you take young leaves of lettuce, and then you show the whole plate, malchut, hakeara, the plate. Okay, so as we said before, the plate contains 6 dishes arranged in the form of a Star of David, corresponding to the following Sefirot of the Tree of Life. Chesed is a lamb's arm, could be chicken neck or chicken wing, representing the strong arm of the Creator and the broke bondage of Egypt. Gevurah, din, boiled egg, hard-boiled egg, that before the holiday, you roast it on open fire a little bit to break the judgment, symbolizing the desire and stubbornness. Tiferet maor, that's in the middle, the bitter herb, the horseradish, symbolizes the power of war and death. Okay, what? Because maor in Hebrew, the bitter herb, is the same gematria as mavet, death. And when there comes the time to eat the maror, you chew a mouthful with the intention to control the power of death and overcome death. Whenever things are bitter and negative, you feel like dying, you have to stop the reaction and just transform it into full connection to enlightenment and to the awe of God. And that's why it's a central column. Okay? When you add a touch to the Haroset to sweeten those judgments. Netzach, that's a Haroset, the power of life, love, and giving. This is Netzach. Karpas, the Hod, is symbolized by judgment and suffering. But so that's why to sweeten the judgment, we dip it in salt water, symbolizing the power of grace that balances the laws. Yesod is a lettuce, the young lettuce leaves, which is the power of balance and sweetening of the judgments. Malchut is the plate itself. So we have 10 sefirot. Also, you can download from this movie online, you can download the Kabbalistic Haggadah with explanations that you have there, the explanation in the Haggadah, you can print it by yourself. Okay, so here the maor. We come back to the maor, the bitter herb. Maor is numerical value 446, which is also death, mavet. So how do we become great? Great people are the people who have discipline. And what's discipline? Is when you feel like being a victim, being bitter, saying everything is wrong and I missed it and there's no hope, whatever, and you overcome the judgment. You overcome the taste of death by injecting and infusing in from above light, excitement, full faith and trust in the light of God that everything is great. That's basically what you chew the bitter herb. It's bitter and you simply enjoy the light of God. When you do that, you achieve greatness. And that is a symbol that every time along the year, when we feel bitter, when we feel the need to be sour and bitter and complain and be a victim, say, no, I'm a winner. I'm God's child. and I was born for winning. And how do you win? When you overcome all the negative emotions and you inject in positive, unconditional love to life and to everything. The Haroset itself, the word Haroset is divided, according to Rabbi Zakluria, into two words, Ruth. Ruth was the grandmother of King David, judgment, Malchut. Sach, 68, life, Chaim. Now, the Arizal had a real recipe for the Haroset. The upper three sfirot, they're spices. Cinnamon, it's very easy to find cinnamon. Ginger, finding fresh ginger is very easy. And nard. Now, there are two versions nobody really knows. It's either lavender, very easy to find in many places, either fresh lavender, or there is a plant called Nardostakis jetamansi. That's you can find in the really like herbal, natural stores, which is coming from the Himalaya. The two versions, the easiest is to find the lavender. That's connecting to the upper three sfirot. 7 lower sfirot, they are fruits. What fruits? Grapes or raisins, or even just wine made of raisins, figs, dates, apples, pears, hazelnut, and pomegranate. In this, usually the Sephardic tradition is to have overwhelming amounts of dates and hazelnut. So it's going to be really sticky, looks like real clay. The main, the original material that you make bricks from. The Ashkenazi are making it more moisture with just the more apples and wine, so it's more moist. There's no right and wrong. It's okay. So whatever you feel like. And if you can't find all these ingredients kosher for Passover, so you can replace whatever you find with another fruit. So it's 3 spices and 7 fruits. And today you grind them and you make like this kind of either it looks like mud or looks like either more muddy or more uh, hard. Okay, after we show the plate and we've put the plate, everything on the plate. We start with the Haggadah. And that goes by everybody saying together the 15 stages of the Haggadah. Why 15? Because 15 is connected to the first 2 letters of the Tetragrammaton, Yud and Hey. Yud is 10, Hey is 5. 15, that means that we're drawing the light of the upper Sephirot. That's the light we receive on the night of Passover. So just to start with, everybody says together from the Haggadah the names of the 15 stages. It's like we're downloading the app. Then we have during the Haggadah 4 cups of wine. We start with Kadesh, with the Kiddush over the wine. That's the first cup. But during the whole night, as we read the Haggadah, there are 4 places we drink a cup of wine. Why 4? The first is for the Yud, the second for the Hey, the third for the Vav, the fourth for the Hey. Chokhmah, Binah, Zeranpin, and Malchut. And if you want deeper meditation, that's also Arsagma Ben. It's the 4 permutations of the name of God. One is 72, again, that's frequency. The second is 63, the third 45, the fourth 52. So we start with the Kadesh. Over here, we already get the highest levels of of Gadlut, greatness from Binah, already on the first cup. Then we come to Urechatz. We just wash our hands, but the Arizal is explaining just the number of Urechatz is Yud times Hey, 20 times 15. It's every word it's a numerical value. That's the second stage. We wash our hands without blessing over it, but like washing hands to a meal. Okay, then we come to this stage we reached for the matzah. We eat 4 portions of matzah during the night of Passover. Okay, again, the same 4 levels, Youdkevitch, Vavkei, Chochmah, Binah, Zampir, Malchut. The wine is drawing the light from Binah, the matzah drawing the light from Chochmah. And even the word matzah is Gematria, numerical value 135, which is Chochmah and Binah. Chochmah is 72, Binah 63, together 135 matzah. So if you're not acquainted with these numbers, just scan them. It's in our Haggadah. You can download and print. So we had already that. Okay. Then we had so when we come to Kadesh Urchatz, Yachatz, this is the part that we take the middle matzah. What's a middle matzah? Bina, Lev Kalam, Levi, that's a middle matzah. We take it out from among the 3 matzot. We show everybody and we break it. Now it's like we broke the hay into 2 pieces, Daled and Vav. The big piece is Vav, because Vav in Hebrew, in numerical value is 6, Dalet is 4. So the big piece, when you break a matzah, it will never come out even. So after you broke the matzah, the big piece is the Vav, and you cover it and you hide it. The smaller piece, could be even just a little bit smaller, you put it back to its place in between the 2 matzot. That represents the Dalet. And then that's why we raise it, say, Hey lach ma'anya. This is the bread of poverty. Daled, the letter Daled in Hebrew means poverty. And then you can, according to the Kabbalists, you don't say halachma, you say Hey lachma. This is the Hey, the letter Hey of poverty, Daled. So what do? After we broke the middle matzah into 2 pieces, later on, when we make the blessing over the matzah and we eat it, we eat a piece from the top matzah and we eat a piece from the middle matzah. The vav, the matzah that we took out, that's the afikoman that we eat at the end of the Seder as safun. It's hidden because it shows about the hidden powers of Zeranpin, of the growth that we experienced during that night. And it's hidden. Okay, the third matzah, the bottom matzah, we eat on that stage that is korech. In English, korech means making a sandwich. This is part, we take 2 pieces of matzah, we put the lettuce in between, we put the bitter herb in between, and we pile the Haroset. That's a sandwich. The Hebrew, the word for sandwich is karich. Korech means making a sandwich. It's an ancient word, thousands of years old, many, many years before the English word sandwich came into being. And whoever said that Lord Sandwich invented the sandwich, no, the sandwich was invented in Egypt many years ago, thousands of years ago. Therefore, we call a sandwich karich. And the verb to make a sandwich is korech. Okay, so we explained that. Then Magid, when we say the power of Pesach, we bring the life in. So we have to meditate when we repeat And during it, we have many times the number 4 appears again. Manishtana, 4 lines of Manishtana, 4 times. We have 4 sons the Torah is speaking about. Again, Youdkevitch, 4 levels of awareness. Okay? We have also many times 4 in the Hallel. So, if we follow the Haggadah with that state of mind, on that Seder night, we have a goal to eliminate the klipa, the negativity from our lives. We draw, God is giving us so much light, not according to how much we deserve, how much He wants to give us. So we just feel, what does it mean to be redeemed? From now on, there is no klipa, no judgment, no negativity, no angel of death or the evil inclination. Everything is sweetened at its root for the whole year long. This is the purpose. And when it's sweetened, we can be free to be aware of God's presence, to be happy, free to be aware of our calling. This is what this night is about. So we can taste the taste of freedom. So we know that freedom is not just having free tickets to fly to any place. Freedom is, it's not the freedom to have any job that you want. Freedom is the freedom to be enlightened whenever you choose to, which is always. But what about the bread of shame? What about the shame of receiving? What did we do? We achieved freedom by just removing chametz, leaven, from our lives for just the 7 days of Pesach, burning the chametz, and making the Seder. Is it possible to get complete freedom from burning chametz, eating matzah, and drinking wine? And the answer, the light remained only for that night. Next day, it disappeared. But at least we keep the taste. Now that we have tasted the taste of freedom and attracted the light of wisdom, we can work on the same forces for 7 weeks, which is the counting of the Omer. But the moment we had that awareness of the night of Pesach, our life is not going to be the same anymore. It's easier to tell the difference between truth and lie. Because after we experience the truth of feeling awareness, now it will be easier to overcome any negativity. During the counting of the Omer, we strive to get that light again. And then we'll receive all this by merit from Keter on Shavuot, on the 50th day. During Chol HaMoed, immediately after the first day, we have in Israel 7 days altogether. Outside Israel, it's 8 days. So the first week, why it's still a holiday? Because on the first week, we work on correcting Chesed. It's the first week. And that includes all the work, and therefore it is a tremendous revelation of light in it. And therefore it's Chol HaMoed. It's, you can travel, you can use electricity and cook whatever, but it's still a holiday. The prayers are like a holiday. There's Torah reading, there's Musaf holiday prayers, and it's recommended not to really work hard. So people use it to be with the family. On the 7th day of Passover, the lights of Chesed are completed, and therefore it is a real holiday. And that's also the day of the splitting of the Red Sea. On the 7th day of Passover, we also celebrate the splitting of the Red Sea and the miracle of the 72 names. The connection to the miracle that came from Keter. An allusion to the lights of the Keter that we will receive on Shavuot. Because that's the end of the first week, we have that power of miracle that repeats itself in a greater level on the night of Shavuot. Happy holiday of freedom to everybody. Unless there's some questions. Any questions?
Yeah, hi, Shaul. I have a question.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so my first question is that Okay, so it comes the Omer, right? And the first week is Chesed. So it's like I've seen so many places that they put, oh, today is the Chesed, no, Geburah Chesed, and Tiferet Chesed. It's like any difference that we need to be working on. It's just like working on the midot of being more sharing, more caring, or how those is divided, like, or
That's
if it's
more
not.
into the study of the Omer.
Okay.
You can find many, many sites that they try to give interpretations for that. You can find on Passover, if you Google like Live Kabbalah Passover,
Mm-hmm.
on the Passover page, there is, and on the Omer, counting of the Omer page, I don't remember exactly, you can download Yeshivat Beit El. That's, I
Mm-hmm.
think, only in the Hebrew, counting of the Omer booklet. And you
Mm-hmm.
have over there exactly all the exact, if you really have the patience for that, what meditation is Chesed of Chesed, Gvura of Chesed, Tiferet of Chesed, if you want to go into it.
But it's
Okay?
like like we need to go deep into it, like, or we just need to be working like a just general, like a practical, like a just work on your attribute of chesed during the week, or we need to go into details.
First of all, we need to have the general idea.
Mm-hmm.
If you study by the Sfirot, you know what is Chesed, and you know Gvura of Chesed. It's a kind of something that you learn. But if you want to detail, you have it in great detail in that book. I think it's only in Hebrew.
A
Okay.
lot
Oh,
journal.
you have also, yeah, there's a counting of the Omer in the Hebrew page of counting of the Omer in Hebrew on the site Live Kabbalah, and over there you have it in short. What is the consciousness of that week, of that
Okay,
day, every week? You have a chart of meditation for every day for the 50 days. Unfortunately, it's not translated into English.
it's fine. Thank
Okay.
you so much. Raul.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
So can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Why outside of the Israel there is 2 days? I
Again?
mean, why we have 2 days outside of the Israels, all the holidays? This childish explanation that people is coming late and not to miss. It's
No. That's not, because that's why we don't celebrate 2 days Yom Kippur.
right.
And the answer is because outside Israel, it's so hard to connect to the holiness. So you need 2 days to bring in that holiness. Okay?
Okay.
So in Israel, it's much easier. If you've been to Israel in a holiday or Shabbat, oh, it's much easier to connect, right? That's a holy land, right? Billions
Okay.
of people think so. Who am I to fight them? Yeah, that's the idea.
Right.
Okay?
Okay. Okay.
Any more questions? Okay, thank you everybody, and
Thank
happy
you.
holiday of Pesach.
Thank you, Shaul. Hag
Thank
Sameach.
you.
Chag
Thank you
Sameach.
very
Sameach.
much.
All
Happy
the best.
holidays to all of
Thank
you.
Happy
you.
holiday.
Thank
Happy
you.
Pesach.
Happy holiday.